Hello, I'm Javier Gómez. This is the Greg Bennett Show. Any questions?
Welcome to the Greg Bennett Show, presented by Any Question. I'm your host, Greg Bennett, and I've just finished a wonderful conversation with Javier Gómez-Noya, my longtime friend and an athlete that I regard as one of the greatest we've ever seen do the sport. In fact, nobody has won more races than this man, and nobody has had to overcome probably as much adversity as he has. I know athletes like Alistair Brownlee and Jan Frodeno have had quite a few setbacks, but Javier Gómez spent the first 6 years of his career fighting just to be allowed to race. And then, you know, when you look at 2016, when he broke his arm after falling off a bike 4 weeks before the Olympic Games, where he was a hot favourite to give Alistair Brownlee a really good run for the gold medal. You know, he's had that. And then this last 10 months has been a struggle. And we spend the first half of this episode really dissecting this year, dealing with long-form COVID and then now a stress fracture in his femur. But there's a lot to learn this one in terms of how to deal with setbacks. And Javier is a true inspiration in the way that he's managing his both mental and physical and emotional self to get himself ready to try and be the best in the world come 2023. Just a great episode to be inspired. We then spend the second half of the episode dissecting this year's Ironman World Championships in KONA and really trying to figure out who we think is going to be a player in that race. A little bit of housekeeping before we go on. I just want to thank you all again for listening, for sharing, and of course your feedback. I do appreciate your feedback. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, whatever, and you can give me feedback. I do appreciate it, and I will get back to you there on any of those platforms. Also, I want you to go check out Any Question, the app that I'm building with my business partner, Ed Baker. Any Question is on iOS and Android. And the real purpose of what we're doing at Any Question is to democratize access to insights from the world's greatest experts and just to help people fulfill their human potential. And the mission, I guess, at the end of the day is to build the most impactful living library of just trusted insights and expertise that's been authored by the greatest of experts in every field. And right now we have about 500 experts across a dozen different channels. It's free for the first hour. Javier Gómez is on there. You can find him, anyquestion.com/Javier Gómez. You can listen to all his answers there and you can ask him follow-up questions here as well. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. And remember, success comes to those who endure just one moment longer. All right. Today I'm joined by one of the greatest we've ever seen do the sport of triathlon. His consistency, versatility, longevity, and just sheer brilliance are unmatched. He's a 10-time world champion and without doubt has won more races than any other triathlete in history. These last 10 months have been a little rocky, but overcoming adversity is what makes this man just such a legend. He was fortunate to even just have a career to begin with. You know, when he first started the sport, he was the High Council of Sport in Spain revealed a cardiac anomaly, and that finding led to a 6-year battle between him and the sporting administrators in Spain to allow him to even have an international career. But since winning that battle, he has raised the standards of the sport for his entire career. Just as impressively, he's also been able to reinvent himself whenever new pretenders have looked to set to take his mantle. One of the best men I know. It's a privilege and honor to sit and chat with a longtime friend of mine. So welcome, and thank you for joining me on the Greg Bennett Show once again, Javier Gómez-Noya. How are you, mate?
Well, thank you, Greg. I'm very well. Even better now after that introduction.
Well, that was it,
so
mate.
Good.
It was like I was doing homework on you, and it really is this, like, this is not new to you, having a year where things don't work out. You've battled so many adversities in your career, and you just keep reinventing yourself. I mean, does that keep you inspired?
Well, yeah, I guess if you see my results, you know, it looks like it has been a great career with so much success, winning world titles, Olympic medal and all that. But it's true that there has been so many setbacks, so many problems that, as you said, my career has almost never started. And I guess that kept my feet on the ground, you know, because with that that cardiac problem that I had. So what I agree with my doctors was to, they allowed me to race for the next 6 months. That was it. And then after 6 months, we check again and we see. And luckily, things have been the same for the last 20 years, 25 years. So that allowed me to have a great career. But even when I was getting great success and winning races, I was like, I don't know what's going to happen next year. I don't even know if I'm going to be still racing. So I guess they kept my feet on the ground and made me appreciate every moment in the sport and, every win, every experience and, everything that comes with the sport.
It really grounded you from the very beginning, didn't it? It's like this... as much as you had the highest highs, the lowest lows were kind of still, they were there. Like you've been through them. I think the biggest one for me was going into 2016 when I watched you and I really felt, Rio Olympics. No, sorry to bring this up, but it was kind of like, and then, you had that crash and you broke your shoulder, right? Or your arm, and 6 weeks out from those Olympics.
Yeah, I broke my elbow, exactly 4 or 6 weeks before the race. And it was one of the, another tough moment in my career. Luckily at that point I had an Olympic medal, but to be honest, I think Rio would have been a great race for me. The way, the race unfolded, how that course suited me. I had won the test event 1 year before. But, you want to win a medal. I always say the same. You have to be on the start line. That's the first thing. And it's actually harder than what people might think, when you're training. In this case, it was just very unfortunate. I mean, a crash. But other times due to injuries, illness, when you push your body so hard and you try to be so fit, there's a very thin line between being very fit or being sick or injured. So the first thing you have to do is make sure you make it to the start line.
I know, it really is. And you said, it's much harder than it looks. I couldn't agree more. People are like, you should have backed off. And I'm like, well, I wanted that Olympic gold medal. So I know I have to peer over the edge where I've never been before and my body's never been before. And I'm going to test myself because it does matter. Those little inches do matter. And, you and I both have taken ourselves out of Olympics. Yeah. Well, not out. I think, we both had fourth places due to injuries that, looking back, was probably our own fault and everything else. I overdid it. But, it is tough to get to that start line of a major day and perform at your very, very best. Fortunately for you, you actually have performed at the highest level many, many times. Like I said at the top, 10 world titles, an Olympic silver medalist. You have turned up consistently many, many times. You look back at your career and go, wow, it's still pretty awesome.
No, definitely. I'm really proud of my career. There are those moments that I'm sure any athlete you can ask, there'll be some of these moments where you get injured, where you can't race, or when you don't perform the day you have to perform. And that's part of the journey. You have to accept it. You have to learn from it and, be better next time. That's the only thing you can do.
I really look at you when you came onto the scene as the guy that really did just push new boundaries and go beyond where we'd all been before. Like you were the new young guard. I know, you're 39 now, but you were the young guy that came on and transformed the sport to what we didn't even know what it could be. And then a number of years later, you were joined by, the Brownlee brothers, but it was you. And then those Brownlee brothers came on and said, we're going to change the way we do the sport completely and we're going to move it up the road. I mean, do you look back at that and think, wow, I did make an impact in the sport? Or do you just say, okay, I was just turning up fit and trying to win races?
Yeah, I'm not going to be so humble here. I think I did, when I look back, and especially the period where when I was racing the Brownlees, I guess from 2009 to 2015, 16, those years were, I think, really good, not only for us, but for triathlon, Olympic distance triathlon. I think we actually raised the bar of the sport. And, I'm sure the Brownies would agree with me that the race in London Olympics was probably the highest level race we ever took part. The way we swam, we cycle, and we run. Still to today, I think it's the best race I've ever done, probably. And and the best race I've ever seen in triathlon or that I've ever been in. So yeah, I'm really proud of those years, and even though without the Brownlees, I probably have won more races, but I think at the end of the day, it was better for the sport, and yeah, it was a really cool time.
Yeah, well, they've said the same thing about you. Both of them been on the show. They've both said the same thing about the 2012 Olympics, that it really was one of the epic races of their careers, and they've both said they would have won far more races had you not been there as well. So I think the rest of us didn't get to win much at all with the three of you around. So you guys might be saying you might have won more, but I would have liked to have won just a couple. So
oh, you can't complain, Greg. You won a few good ones.
But mate, let's look at these last couple of years. Let's look at this recently. You know, 2019, you won the ITU long distance world championship to add another, world title. You've won Ironman Malaysia at the end of 2019, which, you were really focused on trying to just hit hot weather, humid races to prepare to win the Hawaii Ironman. That was the goal. Then 2020, COVID year, big time, a lot of events were sort of cancelled, and that was kind of a tough year to try and do anything. 2021, again, not a lot of races. You did have the Olympics, which was your final kind of Olympic distance races. You really said, hey, I want to focus on the long course. I'm going to put the Olympics aside. And then you've joined, Dr. Dan Plews as your new coach soon after the Olympic Games. You start 2022 with a win in Pukon 70.3 quite comfortably, and all was going great. Take me through the wild year that it's been.
Yeah, it was a horrible year. To be honest, it was the worst of my career. But I know so many things went sideways, I would say. But, I knew clearly after Tokyo Olympics that I was going to do long distance, that when I was going to make changes in my, the people I was working with. I was going to change coaches. I was going to change, try a different approach to long distance, regardless of the result in Tokyo. So, it took me some time to decide who I should talk to be coached by. And I actually heard an interview of Dan Plews here in your podcast, and that helped me a lot. I kind of liked what I listened, what I heard, and I got in touch with him, and we both were interested in it, and we started working together. Pretty much from zero. I just wanted him to guide me in my journey. He was experienced. So it doesn't matter what I've done before or the world titles I won. I'm new in this, this long distance. I never really trained properly or prepared properly. I want your guidance, and let's try to get the best out of me in this way. So we started doing lots of, first lab testing, checking the typical VO2 max and training zones, fat metabolism, some aero testing as well, thanks to a new sponsor, Orbea, my new bikes. I spent some time at the velodrome trying to improve my position, basically trying to, make sure I was, as aerodynamic as I could possibly could. And, and training wise for Dan to have all the data he needed to start making a program. And then the next step was to set the goals. I wanted to do well in St. George. I wanted to do well in KONA. We had time for that. And I guess Dan, the way he works, he thinks of what I need to be competitive. How fast do I need to swim? How fast do I need to run that marathon? And how many watts should I be moving for the 4.5 hours? And we thought that those numbers were achievable, and we started, working towards that. I changed the way I trained quite a bit. We introduced high altitude training, which surprisingly I had never tried before.
I can't believe that you've never done it before.
Well, I done it once. I went once to altitude back in 2007, but I guess I didn't do the right protocol, or at least I didn't feel great. It didn't work, and then I started winning races. Everything was going great, so I decided, well, let's not change anything when things started working. But I knew that was something that I could, possibly get some benefit out of. So yeah, I did 3 training camps in Sierra Nevada in the south of Spain at 2,400 meters. Training was going great. I felt I was improving, especially my bike was getting much stronger. I was very consistent in my long runs, and I think I was pretty ready to race in St. George until literally the day before traveling to the US. I got sick with COVID, and then the bad luck, I guess, or the problems that I had this year started. So it was pretty tough,
It was interesting because around that time, I have a lot of conversations with Dr. Dan Plews offline, not just on the podcast. And I just, how's it going with Javi? Obviously I'm friends with you both, and I want to see you do really well. And it was more just curious. And he said, Greg, I've never seen such numbers. So he was really excited too, and he was devastated when you had COVID, as I'm sure you were. But he was really, really. I mean, this coach athlete is a relationship. It's a close bond. You go through, the wins and the losses together, and I think that woman really hurt when he heard that you had COVID.
He was. I mean, the relationship, with athletic coach usually is very intense when you're trying to be at the highest level. And, we were good at, avoiding injuries and avoiding illness. Even my wife, Annika, she got COVID twice, and I managed to dodge COVID for 2 years. And so... And literally at the end of the last hard week before start tapering for St. George, which was actually the hardest week of the year, and I think that's why I probably got some post-COVID problems, because my body was quite weak, and I guess the virus hit me quite hard. But even the other day, Dan told me that he was going to tell me to start tapering earlier because he thought the numbers were good enough. I was really fit, and he was going to give me a bit more rest to be fresher for the race.
Oh, so now he's living with that regret.
But I mean,
I think you would have got COVID anyway,
we did
mate.
what we had to do, but that weekend I got sick on a Monday, and that Saturday and Sunday I had really great sessions, and really, really tough ones. And I was on my way to Madrid, driving before flying to the US, and I started to feel a bit sick and not great. I was like, I don't know what's going on here. And things just got worse and worse, and I did a COVID test and it was positive. So it's quite frustrating, especially when you have done all the work and you're ready to start tapering.
Right up to the last moment, you're driving to the airport, and then it's like, come on. At least you could have stopped me having to do all those brutal workouts and everything else where I've really hammered myself, both mentally and physically.
I want to believe that they are still in there somewhere.
Mate, there's nothing. The one thing I know about you is when you get healthy, when you get back going, it actually won't take you terribly long. And this is one of the beauties of being 39 and having so many years. You actually have the tools in your tool belt. I know it's hard to see that now when you're kind of going through, the sicknesses and now an injury. It's kind of, will I ever come back? I have zero doubt. I have zero doubt that you're going to come back and you're actually going to be even another level. I've seen it with you too many times, and I think you're at that right age of that 39 to 42, which is a really great sweet spot for being able to come back and be strong and be consistent. That's just my personal view, so you can take it or leave it.
I definitely want to come back. I'm not ready to retire, especially because I've seen this year, even though if you see my races, I only race in Pucón with a good race, but it was a long time ago, early January. But the training I was doing, the numbers I was eating, Dan knows those, and I know those, and so I know I was very fit, and I would have been competitive. You never know how, if it was enough to win or to be 5th or 10th or whatever, but I was going to be competitive for sure. So I wouldn't like to retire without giving my best shot for a long distance race, because even though I've done a few of those, I think I've never performed at my best level. So
you've never been coached properly. Like, having somebody that understands the science is critical to perform well. on the elite stage, especially at long distance, even short course these days. The gains that people are making by using data, by using science, by using sports scientists to understand the information that they're collecting and deliver it to the athlete. I'm looking forward to, because we were speaking probably about this time last year about what coaches and things, and I was kind of like, yeah, this is exciting that you actually leaning into this a little bit more, that, not to say you haven't had great coaches in the past, but to having somebody that's a little bit more sports science specific, I think it's great.
I think it's what I needed after I knew how to be very fit for Olympic distance racing, and I had great success with Carlos, and he understood what I needed, and so that worked great. But at this stage of my career, I just wanted to try something different, and I don't have much time for trial and error, so I wanted to go with someone who had experience and the knowledge, and I thought Dan was the right person for that.
Yeah. How has the training been different?
In many ways. The only training for long distance compared to Olympic distance is going to be different, but yeah, it was way more specific and focused on the bike, which is the main thing that I needed to improve. And I think we've seen pretty good improvements there. Also, my running, my long runs, my durability, I'm not any faster. Probably not as fast as I was before running, but I could do really consistent long runs at really good pace, and we work as well a lot on the fat oxidation, specific sessions for that. It's something that Dan really believes, and I think we've improved a lot there. And all the nutrition as well, which is the fourth discipline of the long distance. We kind of touched all the weaknesses that I had and tried to keep the strengths that I already have, so. And training had been very consistent, and I thought I think I actually improved a lot.
You got the COVID. It plagued you for quite a while, though. It wasn't just a quick, a couple of weeks and I'm back going. It's been plaguing you on and off for a while, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's actually the worst part started after I recovered from COVID, because after the 10, 12 days that I had it, I was sick, not too bad. But after that, I was like, okay, I'm ready to start again. Let's set new goals. Let's go back on training. But I don't know. I just felt bad. My muscles were sore, as if I had gone, as if I was in the gym the day before, like working really hard. Wow. For some reason. My blood test was all over the place, really weird values. I even had some heart palpitations, and so. It was quite serious, and I went to different doctors and did the different checks, and they had, they told me they had seen lots of cases like that, a lot of people with complications post-COVID. And obviously, if you're an elite athlete, maybe I was okay to do normal life, but when I tried to push myself a little bit, I just didn't have it. So I had to step back, take it easy for some time until things looked a bit better with the doctors. And so 2 months ago, I got the green light from the doctors to everything seemed to be back to normal. So I started training again, getting fitter and fitter, and we started setting goals. And unfortunately, KONA was not a real possibility anymore, as I still had to qualify. And there was only a couple of races left, like 2 weeks after I started training properly again, so it was too risky and we didn't want to do that. So we decided to change goals and focus on 70.3 worlds. I was qualified for that, and also PTO in Dallas, and possibly another 70.3 after that. And so that was going to be my last part of the season. But again, another problem, another setback. Unfortunately, got a stress fracture on my femur.
Wow. Whereabouts on the femur? Up near the head or on the ball? Or?
No, it's actually closer to the knee, which is quite strange.
Wow.
It's not a very typical part of the bone. So doctor was a bit surprised, especially because I wasn't really running that much. I was cycling pretty well already, and I was increasing my running load, but definitely I wasn't doing anything
What made you
special.
think? What made you go get tested? What was the pain you were feeling?
It was a pain that I was a bit concerned about, because I had stress fractures before, and it was a bit like that, that you don't really know where it is exactly. It goes along the leg. I couldn't point it exactly where it was. It wasn't too bad, but it was always there. And after a running session, it got worse, and I knew something was wrong. And I did a scan, and that is what it was. So then we had to change plans again and basically finish the season, recover. It was quite strange, and that to get that type of injury on that part of the bone.
It's so deflating, mate.
It's not very common, and doctors were a bit surprised, and they wonder if post-COVID has anything to do with that. It's hard to tell, but anyway, the reality is it is what it is, and I need to take it easy now to recover and start setting goals for next year.
How long ago did you get diagnosed with that? How many weeks ago?
This was 4 weeks ago. Already swimming and cycling a bit easy. Yeah. And I have actually in the next few days I have another scan to see how it's progressing, and hopefully I'm not in a rush now, as I don't really have races in the in the next few weeks anymore. Yeah. So I just want to recover properly, and after this horrible year, I want to give it a try again next year and hopefully start racing.
You got to spend some time on figuring out the why of the stress fracture too, right? I mean, they're saying possibly definitely. COVID could be. Is there any chance of like bike setup or shoes you're running in? And I'm not hammering any of the companies you work with, because they're all brilliant. But
I've been running with the same shoe, same brand for years, and it has been good. I was discussing with Dan about this, because we had a look at the training load in the last few weeks, and it was a progression, but definitely nothing crazy or nothing that I hadn't done before, so it's a bit strange. We'll keep, doing some, I was in Madrid the other day doing some tests in the lab, different strength of the different muscles in my legs, and some more blood tests, and try to get some more information. But at the moment, the priority is to recover that. But I'm definitely, it was quite hard mentally after such a bad year. It's just another problem on top. But I'm definitely committed to come back, and I know it will happen. Hopefully sooner rather than later. I would like to qualify for KONA, whenever I'm ready for 2023. And if everything goes well, that will be my goal next year.
Have your sponsors been, supportive, and, is that all okay, that side of the business?
Yeah. I mean, and I was a bit worried, I'm not, luckily all my sports career, every year was a good year pretty much, some better than others, but there's been world titles and lots of great races, and I'm not used to have a year like this with so many problems. So I was a bit concerned about sponsors, but to be honest, all of them, they show their support. It's great to see they are there, not only in the good times, but also in the tough times. And they are not putting any pressure on me. And they know that I'm the first one who wants to race again and perform. And they're respecting that I need some time to recover, and they know that I'll be back. So I have full support, which is quite nice. It makes me feel much better. I didn't want to let them down.
No. It is. This is one of the anxiety pieces that, being a professional athlete, it's like you don't want to let people down, and they've backed you, and you want to show people that you're capable. Yeah. How's Annika doing with it all?
Yeah, she's been quite supportive. She it was hard for her as well, because she saw me that I was struggling, and that was very frustrating for me. But we accepted. We are calm now about it, and we just, there's nothing we can do now. Only, look ahead and try to do things properly, try to do things the best I can. I know that I have some good races in my legs, and even though it's been a year, with not many racing, and might look like that I was never there, but I know that my training was there. I feel that I trained a lot this year, even though I didn't race. And I feel that I was quite fit at certain parts of the year, especially before St. George. I never could prove it in the race, but I know that I can go back there and prove myself in the near future.
I have zero doubt, mate. And one thing we've come very used to is seeing Javier Gómez on start lines. So it is a bit quiet when we don't see you on the start lines. It's like it's a strange year, and look, and everybody, gravitate to it, whatever sort of new names pop up. It's always the new flavor. It's always amazing to me how quickly we forget. It's like you and Alistair Brownlee have injuries, or Jan Frodeno have injuries, and we're like, oh yeah, next. Who's next? And it's like, whoa.
That's normal. That's normal, and I understand that. To be honest, I'm fine with that. I don't need to be in the spotlight.
No.
I don't. I just want to recover, and I'm confident enough to know that I'll be there, Of course, it's great to see so many great athletes. It's a great time for triathlon, I think, with so many different races and big races and different distances, and lots of, new names coming up. It's quite exciting to watch.
How good was Colin Shatier this past weekend in the Dallas at the US Open? Did you see his run?
He was unbelievable. I mean, I knew him from racing in Spain. He spent some time racing in Spain. I raced him at middle distance nationals a couple of years ago, and he wasn't anywhere near to where he is at the moment. It's good to see. He's a great guy. It's good to see new names, performing and challenging the more established ones.
No, I was very impressed. When I announced last year's Collins Cup, and he got brought in as first reserve for the US team, and that was kind of a big step up in his career, and that was 1 year ago, and here we are, and he's winning the US Open in Dallas and the $100,000 and running down Magnus Ditlev and Sam Long and everybody else. It was the guy knows how to perform in the heat from what it looked like. I mean, you and I have raced each other in Dallas, and it can be quite brutal, but I was impressed for him. But let's do this. Let's shift gear a little bit and talk about KONA 2022. It's finally here after almost 3 years. Tell me your sort of thoughts on how you think the race will unfold. Let's start with the men, and then I also want to discuss the women.
Yeah.
What are you thinking when you look at that race?
Well, as you know, KONA is a pretty special, different race, and I experienced that myself in 2018. Is it kind of races that you need? It's good to have some experience to feel the race. It's there are so many factors, there are so many challenges that you're going to find in the race, that it's actually hard to perform well your first time. That being said, I mean, of course, Christian Blumenfeld, Gustav Iden, these guys, they can perform, and they are capable of winning KONA the first time for sure. But especially for that race, I wouldn't, I think other people, like more experienced guys like Braden Curry, Patrick Lange, Ben Hoffman, T.O., that probably in a faster Ironman and cooler weather, maybe they are not as fast as, maybe Lionel or Eden or Blumenfeld. But in this type of racing, they have a lot of experience. They know the race very well. And I think they can truly be top contenders for the win. So it's going to be quite interesting. Let's see how the race unfolds. But it's definitely going to be an exciting one. I
agree with you. And I like that you mentioned a couple of those names. And, I just had Patrick Langer on the show, actually. His episode just came out yesterday. And he's one of those guys that people don't tend to talk about a lot, and yet he's a two-time KONA Ironman world champion, first guy to ever go under 8 hours in 7 hours 52. He won Challenge Roth just last year and was a close runner-up this year to Magnus Ditlev. He's been through a lot himself. 2019 was kind of his year that was pretty tough, both on the family side and everything else he had. I actually see him as it's funny, we call him a dark horse when he's really one of the greatest we've ever seen,
He's the guy that goes under the radar quite often, even though he's the second fastest ever in Hawaii, behind Jan Frodeno, who is not racing. So he knows how to win that race. He knows how to perform in the heat.
Yes.
And he knows what he has to do, whereas new guys, as I said, they are definitely capable of winning, but this is a very different race, and what I learned, my experience, is that any small mistake you make, you're gonna pay it. It's a brutal race, and people take too many risks, and there are actually not many guys who can run properly the last 10 to 12K.
Yeah.
And Patrick Lang is one of those, So yeah, I think he's definitely one to watch, But as I said before, others like Ben Hoffman, Theo, these guys are really tough in these conditions, and they know that race. So I wouldn't focus only in the new names and all the excitement around the Norwegians and Lionel and all these guys who are amazing. But yeah, in a race like KONA, I think there are more names who can actually win the race.
Oh, look, I know we're going to miss plenty of names here, but we're throwing some out right now because we're just having a chat. And the other one, Sebastian Kinley, it's his last year of racing. His resume at KONA is absolutely outstanding. I know he'll want to be prepared. And the thing with these guys is a lot of them have changed coaches, a bit like you. They've gone and found guys that are a bit more scientifically based, and they're trying to get that little bit more out of themselves. You mentioned Ben Hoffman and Theo. Then you got the young guard of the Americans with, Sam Long and Shatier, as we mentioned, Matt Hansen and Rudy Vonberg. There's quite a few US athletes that'll be in that mix. Obviously, you see Lionel Sanders, he's kind of a crowd favorite.
When you see the star list, it's like, this guy, he could win in a good day. Next one, he could win in a good day. And then you have 25 potential winners of the race. But that's great. That's great to see. And you mentioned Sebastian Kinley, and it's his last year in KONA, and I would really like him to do well. I mean, he's a legend for the sport, and he's still working hard, and I think he still has the ability to be with the top guys. He needs a good day, and the race has to go, the way that benefits him. But I think he can do well, and I would like to see him doing one last good KONA.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's going to be interesting to see Sam Long, Magnus Ditlev, Cam Worth. These guys are going to really want to put the hammer down on that bike to see how well they run off it, to see if there is a gap in the bike. 2019 was an unusual year because we saw the swimmers, for the first time ever, the swimmers held off everybody else on the bike.
But these swimmers were Jan Frodeno, Alistair Brownlee, So you can say they are swimmers, but they're probably the best cyclists out there as well.
Some of the best triathletes in history, but
but I know what you mean. But I don't know. I guess I think it's really hard to win KONA on the bike. Of course, a lot of people going to try, and Cameron Worth can make a difference, and Ditlev, Sam Long, but they need a good run. They definitely can change the dynamic of the race, and some of these guys pushing really hard on the bike might drag other guys that are actually good runners. Not that they are not, but definitely they not only need a super bike, but they need to do a good run. It doesn't matter how fast you ride, but if you blow up in KONA, you blow up really bad and you end up walking. Yeah. I know that firsthand.
Oh, me too, buddy. Me too. One time I went there, I got to know very well the Queen K. I spent a little bit too long out there. I remember I think I ran the first 10 miles in under an hour, and then the next sort of 16 miles took me 2.5 hours.
It's a long way back from the energy lab.
I know. Well, talking about the run, when you think of people like, well, we already mentioned, Ben Hoffman and Tim O'Donnell, who are just solid marathoners. They're just solid every single time. And then you add in a Braden Curry and David McNamee, Joe Skipper. Yeah. There's all these guys that know how to run a marathon on the back end at KONA that it's going to be very exciting to see. It'd be interesting to see if Matt Hansen can deliver a run like he's done at Ironman Texas. I actually think, in these conditions, you never know. But these guys that you mentioned, they are really experienced, and I don't know. I think the aid stations are so important, and that's something that Patrick Lang does so well. He's able to eat, drink, do lots of things, and still running at the same pace, which is quite difficult. And I think that's one of his strongest points. He can get all the nutrition in, and he doesn't lose any second when he goes to the aid stations. And so
that's why all these experienced guys they have a say in Kona, I think.
Let's move on. Let's talk about the women. I'm really excited about the women's race. I think this is
it's great that Lucy is back. She's recovered from her injury, and to be honest, I think it's hard to imagine Daniela not winning. The way she's been performing, and all the experience she has, and she knows how to prepare Kona if she's healthy. And I think she's the main favorite, unless she makes a mistake or she does something wrong, which I don't think she will, because she's, as I said, she's very experienced. But it's always a very interesting race with Lucy Charles and the top swimmers, leading out of the water with quite some time to Daniela. And Lucy, she's so strong on the bike, she's improving her run. So yeah, it could be a tight one. And then you have, Kate Matthews, Annie Haug, also former winner, and with all the experience, Laura Philipp. Yeah, there's so many.
You got all those.
Names.
They're the exact names I was going to throw out at you. I mean, when you think of, the top three, and they're just edging out the next two. The top three, I would have to say Daniela Ryf, Lucy Charles-Barclay, and Annie Haug. But then you have Kat Matthews and Laura Philipp. I mean, their performances this year have been absolutely insane. And then you throw in some of the US names, Sarah True, Heather Jackson, the mums, Chelsea Sodaro,
Yeah, I was going to say Chelsea, that she's also training with Dan, and she did so well in Edmonton, and she trains really hard. She spent some time here in Pontevedra with Dan. Oh my God, she was here, and we had a mini squad camp before I got injured. I think she's fit, and she's been training in Kona now. Some acclimatation. So I would love to see her among the top girls,
mate. And look, I apologize to all listeners. I know we've missed a whole bunch of names, but
but as I said, if you go through the start list, I can tell you another 25 potential.
I know I don't
winners,
have the start list in front of me, so I've just listed all of those on top of mind. And but it is great, when I had Lucy Charles-Barclay just on the show, she was in the middle of her injury back in April, and it seemed like Kona was never going to happen. Do you know what I mean? It was like she was like, of course I'm coming back, but it was a tough place. A bit like we've spent the first half of this episode with you. It's like, yes, I'm coming back, but I'm kind of in the middle of it, and just the relief it must have. She went and won World Long Course Champs as her first race back, and then has just been solid these last few races. It's
so good to see, and I guess the good part of being injured, being away for so long, is that you come back so hungry, and probably she'll still, getting fit. She's still getting fitter and fitter, and getting better each day, recovering after the injury. So I think she'll be even probably fitter in Kona than she was, in Dallas or in Samarin, the few races she did after the injury. So she could be very dangerous, for Daniela, for all the other girls. So
it's going to be a good race, isn't it? It's
going to be a good race to watch. Yeah,
I mean, I love Daniela.
I would love to be there, but to be honest, it's a great race to watch as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask actually if you were going to go out for sponsors or anything else, but no, it's kind of painful when you're injured to go. Why aren't you racing?
Yeah.
La, 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 la.
And it's so far away from Spain, from Europe. It's such a long trip. But hopefully next time I go there, I will be to race.
Yeah, no, I get it, mate. Well, look, when Daniela won in Utah, it was awesome. I don't know if you remember a post-race interview, but basically she would say, look, you guys all had written me off, and here I am, so screw you guys. And I think there's going to be a little bit of that in Kona, where she's like, look, you guys still don't think I'm back.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit, she left her coach for many, many years, Brett Sutton, who it was very rare to see athletes leave the Sutton sort of training and actually still have careers afterwards. Yeah. And she's one of the few that's been able to find herself again and keep performing. So I think that's all credit to her. But boy, I think we're going to see a marathon in this women's race. I think we're going to see between Laura Philipp, Kat Matthews, Annie Haug. I think it's going to be a hell of a marathon from these women. Yeah,
probably you'll see Lucy at the front or with Daniela, and then Annie Haug running crazy fast as other times. Chelsea Sodaro, someone that can run very fast as well.
Yeah.
Laura Philipp. it's going to be an exciting one,
mate. I can't wait personally. Well, mate, this has been really fantastic. So next for you, focusing on rehab, you got a good team around you for that?
Yeah, I think I have a good team around me, and as I said, I'm really anxious to come back and train again. I'm going to go to New Zealand soon to spend like a year as part of the the European winter there, and I would like to get back to proper training as soon as possible and do things properly, get fit slowly. And in my mind I would like to start racing quite early in 2023, hopefully, Australia, New Zealand. I don't know, I'm considering Ironman New Zealand or these races that I always wanted to do, but they are always so early, and I'm always finishing so late the season that that I never can do them. So this time maybe it's a good opportunity for that, and sort my qualification for KONA as soon as possible, and then have time to train for it and plan it properly. Probably I will be training here in Europe after March, April next year, and do my high altitude training camps and keep working, keep improving, and hopefully make it to the start line in KONA. That's the main goal. I can't wait for that. And looking for the positives of an injury, of setbacks, is that I really know that I want to come back, and I really know that I'm going to put everything from my side to be competitive again. I'm very pleased with my career. I'm very happy if I have to retire tomorrow, but I don't think I'm done yet. I still have some good races, and I just want to go out there and keep enjoying this amazing sport. And when you have tough times like these, you realize how lucky you are when you're doing what you like, when you're racing, when you're training. We tend to complain, about training or being tired or having to travel so much. But when you can't do it, it's actually harder. So, I can't wait to be on the start line again.
I love those words, mate. And it's been 3 years since you've been back to New Zealand, right? You haven't been back during the COVID years,
have you? It's been a long time since before COVID, so I can't wait.
Because you have a house down there, right? I mean, you guys are actually set up and home, and
Yeah, we have a house there, and it's great for training where we live, especially for running. It's amazing. Have a pool, I have everything I need there, and it'll be good weather, and I can wait, have some training mates there as well.
Nice.
So it will be great. It will be great.
And you mentioned bucket list races. You've been around so long, you've raced hundreds and hundreds of events. On that bucket list, are there any that stand out? You mentioned Ironman New Zealand. Anything else on the bucket list that you really would love to do?
Well, Ironman New Zealand is definitely one of them. I always want to do that one, especially now that I'm spending a lot of time in New Zealand. I've done most of them, I don't know, races like Escape from Alcatraz, I always wanted to do that one, and I did it. And KONA, I did it in 2018, not very successfully, but I did it. I don't know, it's hard to think of a race that I haven't done.
I know. It's one of the fortunate things.
I would like to do this PTO events, I was watching Edmonton and Dallas, and they look really good races, very well organized, very professional, a good distance. I like that kind of.
Oh, it's the best distance. It's the best distance. Oh, I love it. I wish I was back.
Yeah. It gets closer to the Olympic non-drafting that we both love.
yes, exactly. It's funny. Every time I did a 70.3, I got really tired around 75, 80K on the bike, because I'd ride way too hard early. And the bike being 80K, I was like, oh, that's perfect. And the same with the half marathon. I'd always run really hard for the first 12, 13K and be really buggered by, 16, 17. And now it's like, oh, it stops at 18. That's way better than 21.
Yeah, it's crazy. Those 3Ks make a difference. It's a big difference.
They do. They really do. How about, I'm sorry to keep you here, but I enjoy your company. So I'm going to just chat a little bit. Ashley Gentle.
Oh, yeah.
I had her on the show about, I don't know, not even a year ago. And she's like, oh, maybe I'll look at going long course. I'm like, go long, go longer.
Yeah.
And boy, is she cleaning up.
I think everyone thought that she could do great in long course for the type of athlete she was in short course.
Yeah.
But she's doing amazingly well. And, during my career, she was also competing in ITU and doing very well. And when an athlete like her, she was junior world champion back in 2010, I think, and someone capable of winning World Series and Grand Finals and this kind of top short course races, and an athlete like her, that she's probably, swimming is not her strongest, but such a fast runner, efficient, and a great cyclist like her. I mean, it was a matter of time for her to do well in long distance. It's great to see. I mean, she's really talented.
She's cleaning up. So big shout out to Ashley. I just want to make sure I got that in with you, because I knew you understood her pedigree and background as well. And I think she's won Noosa Triathlon 7 times. Have you ever done Noosa, actually?
Actually, that's
a bucket list race you haven't done.
I need to do that one.
Oh, mate.
I need to do that one.
Yeah.
I trained in Noosa for a few years. I spent some time there, and I know about that race. And that's one that I would like to do.
Well, it was always a tough time of year. Once I started racing more internationally, I very rarely did it, because you'd come home after, racing you in Dallas and everything in October, and it's been such a long year, and then you go, Noosa's in November. I'm like, I don't have one more left. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I haven't done it yet. Other than that, I love that type of distance Olympic non-drafting. I did many of those in the US with you for many years, and unfortunately, not great Olympic non-drafting races anymore. But I would have done Noosa for sure if it was a different date.
Well, mate, I hope we get to catch up in person soon, mate. But this has been really, really awesome just to catch up, and I appreciate you for sharing. It's not easy to talk when you kind of, you've had a rough year, so I appreciate it.
When you got in touch with me, I was like, I don't really have much to say. I mean, I haven't raced this year. What I'm going to talk about, But I guess, it's good to, just to tell you and all your listeners how the year was for me, and, the tough times. Racing is not only about the great times and winning and success, but we have to deal with tough moments as well. Something that happens to everyone sooner or later, and you just have to stay calm, keep working, and eventually you'll be back.
Yeah, mate. And look, I think the reason the reason I like to bring on athletes when they've gone through tough times is, I think most of the listeners are nodding their heads going, yeah, I'm going through the same shit. And it's like, it's not that misery loves company, but if we can try and learn from each other on how we can, cope and become better because of it, I think it helps. So I appreciate you sharing your story. Really. Definitely. It's awesome, mate. Thanks for coming on, mate.
Well, thanks so much, Greg. Always a pleasure. And I hope to see you in person soon. You're always welcome in New Zealand.
Thanks, mate. All right. Thanks everyone also for listening. And you can find all the show notes, timestamps and links and everything, coupon codes at bennettendurance.com/media.
Thanks a lot for listening. If you enjoyed the show, your support would truly be appreciated. You can visit the Patreon page, or you can subscribe with your podcast app of choice. Don't miss the next episode, so subscribe and be notified. For show notes, if you want to know more, please visit bennettendurance.com. I'm Phil Liggett, and on behalf of Greg Bennett, here's to the next time, and I hope you will join Greg again very soon.